Right, well, we're going to start again because I've just done a 1 hour video and there's no sound, but I need to tell you about this, so we're going to do it again, except it's going to be about 10 minutes of discussion instead. So this biscuit tin has arrived and it says the Acme CB Radio Transport Sarcophagus, which is great fun, and it's a PE Ranger which I've now taken out of its plastic case. PE was Practical Electronics, as in the magazine, like Practical Wireless, it's a sister magazine. So there's the one half of the case with the speaker. So this particular one is the ready assembled version of what was a project which you could of course build either, they offered a kit, or as a standalone, build it yourself, source the parts yourself, which I did at the time. So it started off in September 1981's Practical Electronics, and it went into quite a few parts. So as this arrived, the transmit was doing 250 milliwatts. The receive was doing an incredible 16.5 microvolts, and I was able to retune it to 1.2 microvolts for 10 decibels. These are single conversion. These are a single conversion receiver, so it's one IF of 455 kilohertz. Channel 30 crystal there's 4 sets of crystals fitted. It's got channel 13, channel 14, channel 30 and channel 9. Unfortunately, channel 30 is too out of spec to use. That's a real shame because we'd have liked to have done it on there. But what I have been able to do is to tune it so that it's a reasonable compromise for transmit and receive on channels 13, 14 and 9. So the way it's tuned, so on transmit, this one is the frequency. You've only got one, so on something which is more expensive you'd have individual trimmers for each crystal, but you only got one, so it's a bit of a compromise. So with that crystal being out of spec, there's nothing we can do. Then it's peaking for maximum, 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 and then the 2 trimmers for maximum. We've ended up with 400 milliwatts. It's a 500 milliwatt set, but as far as I can see, it's 500 milliwatts without this filter. This filter came right at the end when I discovered it was actually the emissions of unwanted spurious was a bit high. So that was a bit of an afterthought. Then there were suggestions that you could up the output power probably to about 800 milliwatts by changing the 2 output transistors for different ones. But this is the way this is. I say it was presented as 250 milliwatts, it's now 400 milliwatts. Absolute maximum voltage is 400. What am I talking about? Absolute maximum voltage is 12.5, which is what we've got it at. Now, the magazine went on to publish 2 more projects. And one was the base station adapter. This is nothing to do with this. And so you got a separate box which was a 4-watt linear amplifier and a meter and another power supply and things. So you got that. And I have an unbuilt kit. I've shown this before. We won't be building the kit at any point, but we will be building a standalone one not from the kit. By having the kit, I've got the finished faceplates which I can scan and replicate. So that's that. And then finally, the magazine published a year later a 40-channel synthesizer. So adding this 3rd box turns it into a 40-channel set. And again, this is something I could make. They didn't produce a kit for this, and so you would have to build this as a standalone. I think I've got all the parts in stock to build one of these standalone, a base station adapter and a synthesizer. So on the receive side, the detector is here, IF's there, we've got the front end, and amazingly I was able to bring the sensitivity right down. We used the marker oscillator, that second signal generator, on 455 kHz to get the frequency somewhere near with this trimmer. So these have a built-in battery pack, which I'll carefully put to one side, ready to throw in our supermarkets. I'm not going to give these to the customer back. I'm sure he doesn't want them, unless he emails me and says, "Oh, please, Mr. Tango, I want them back." So you've got two of these. These are leaking like what's it, and they're 250 milliamp hour batteries. And what I've done is I've ordered a 6 AAA battery pack and a 4 AAA battery pack. There's enough space to cram those in there. Don't know how we're going to mount them, but there is enough space to cram them in. And then, therefore, with 10 AAAs, it's going to be a 1000 milliamp hour battery pack, which will be obviously 4 times better battery life. Changed this capacitor. I don't know why, but this was fitted, and it's been attacked by battery leakage. I've cleaned the underside of the board with isopropyl alcohol, and for some reason this is 400 microfarads, whereas it says 2200 microfarads. So all these capacitors are original, and I see no reason that there's any snags with them. They're all Matsushita, so Panasonic ones, except that odd Philips one shoved in. So we've got a Japanese one, which I've put in at 2200, which is what's supposed to be in. So power supply is here. So we've got a standard Telefunken 955 type figure 8 lead, which seems to be the standard these days. Mains transformer, bridge rectifier, the capacitor I've changed. Then there's an NE555 timer IC, which is used to produce the regulated voltage for the charging circuit. Nothing to do with timer. You know, you've got to work out how many hours you're going to keep it on charge for. It's not going to automatically cut out or anything. So that's where we are with it. It's going to have to go back in a box because I can't complete it today. I knew I couldn't complete it. I knew straight away from the word go that this was going to be... I didn't think we'd get this far. I thought it was going to be an evaluation, but it isn't. You've actually done the job. It just needs the parts I've ordered to go in. It comes with an Adastra mic, which looks... I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell you the model number of this because this is probably important. It's an M50. These were also supplied with a particularly long rubber duck. I've never seen the likes of anywhere else. Now, because I've got an unfinished, an unbuilt kit, we have that rubber duck. So I see no reason why we can't send Mr. Chippy out with the body cam when this is finished and do a field test. I think actually the customer would be quite chuffed to see that. These were $49.95 plus post plus VAT. Back in those days, in 1981, the post was £2.80, and so it £1.40, sorry, and so it was £59.05 for the kit version. So ready built was obviously more money. I can't remember how much more money, probably about £10 more, if I remember rightly. But by the time this was available, the Far Eastern ones were already in the shops, and so really this UK, whether you built it yourself or whether it was bought from Autumn Products, had kind of missed the possibility. Crystals would be £35 each to have made, so it's going to be out of the question. It's possible that these are the same crystals used in those Harvard 020 type of handhelds. I'm going to do some research when we get the parts, because it may be possible that we've got a scrap Harvard 020. I'm not saying we may have, in which case we could pinch its transmit crystal and restore channel 30. because I'm sure nobody wants to pay 35 quid to have a crystal made. What I was trying to tell you, their method of setup is oversimplistic, and they're assuming that you have no test equipment other than a meter. So I devised my own method because it just isn't set up well with their method. So I'm going to show you on the test set where we've got it to, but it's a shame that I lost the sound. It would have been nice for you all to see me going through the adjustments as usual and restoring it back to some kind of working order. So there you are, I can hear it on receive, and we'll put picture in picture on. I'll go over to the cyanide meter. That's 0.3 of a microvolt you're hearing, 0.2, 0.15. So it will hear, and it's for 10 decibel. I've got about 1.1 microvolts there. It's been on all day. And on the other scale it's also 1.1 microvolts. So as it's actually stayed on, we've got 1.2 microvolts, but I feel quite confident that I can now change that to 1.1. So that's good, and it's 10 decibel side and not 12. So we're on channel 14 to do this. That's the nearest to the centre of the band that is workable. I'd like to have done it on channel 30. I mean, we can do our on-the-air test on channel 14. It really isn't going to matter. It's not like there's going to be anybody going 1.4 for a copy. They never did in this area. I don't know whether they do in your area, but they didn't. So channel 13, 14 and 9 are working. So let's go into transmit. So on the low power scale, so there's half a watt. So if I key up now, you'll see it's 350 milliwatts. It's supposed to be 500 milliwatts, but I'll say that was before the filter had to go in. So really it was a bit naughty for them to say it was 500 milliwatts, because they're not going to be with the filter. So bit naughty. But we've tested these before, and we've actually had the full 6 miles on it. Doesn't mean we will on this one. We perhaps will only get down the end of the road. I really don't know. That's something we'll do when we've put it back together, I think. On the other hand, I might have a go this evening with it like this. So if this goes out first, if you'd like to see this working, I'll tell you what, I'll publish it straight away, and we'll see whether we can cram in an on-the-air test with it while it's on the bench. I think that would be quite sensible. And then when we've put it back together, we'll do a field test with it, with Mr. Chippy in the body cam. That sounds like a pop group, doesn't it? And seeing as he plays the guitar, that'd be quite something. So the customer sent it to me without him trying it because of the state of the batteries, etc. I'm just going to show you the deviation. Wallow, 1, 2, wallow. It's capable of going a little higher than I would like, but the sensitivity is also not kind of how I would like. And what we were able to show you was we've got symmetry of the transmitted audio, which is there, I think. Oh, I'm going to have to get... I've only just done this and I've still forgotten. So we've got the layout there, so let me just look at the circuit once again. So deviation is VR3, The deviation is VR3. Modulation linearity is VR1, which is that one. So we set that with our second oscilloscope we have and don't normally show for the best sine wave. So we inputted that from our tone generator. We use that Korg chromatic tuner, don't we? So that's an unusual adjustment, but I was able to get that pretty nicely set. Then we've got squelch. Is that 3? Because it's a switch squelch, it's on or off, and it's set nicely. VR3 is squelch, and VR2 is the transmitter power, which is at full. So if I put this on the aerial, we're not going to hear anybody, are we? Because although it's got the sensitivity, it's got 3 working channels. And these were, when you bought the kit, or whether you bought it, were finished like this, you got one set of crystals and you paid extra money for the other crystals. So most of these that you do see, and there aren't many around, will be single channel. Let's turn the squelch off. We'll listen to channel 14. Now unless there is a signal, you're unlikely to hear much. So nothing on 14, nothing on 13, and there's channel 9, nothing on there. So what we'll just do is I'll get our hand portable, switch the squelch on, testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3 4 5 5 4 3 2 1. So there we've got some transmission from it. Then hopefully the other way around. Testing 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. Testing 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. Hello, testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2. Try that on channel 13. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. And if we go to channel 9, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. That seems like the best one. And channel 30 is out of spec. So if we go to channel 30, we'll see whether it actually receives, because the transmit's out of spec, we can't be using it. Tango 21 testing. Tango 21 testing. It's just splashing. It's wrong. So there we go. So it is at least working. So anyone who says, "Oh, I'm really disappointed because one of the channels isn't working," well, I say they only shipped with 1 channel, and this has got 4. So it's a darn sight better than it would normally be. And so we will just look into whether we can use, whether we've got a scrap donor set we can pinch a transmit crystal from. So remember, we can only set, it's a compromise. When we set the frequency for receive with this coil, it's a compromise. I've done it on channel 14, and you've got to hope that the others fall in place somewhere near, and the same goes with transmit with that coil. So there we are. I'll show you the underside. I'll unpower it to do that, because we're all on crocodile clips and that, as you can well imagine. So that's the underside, and I've cleaned all this with isopropyl alcohol. And what we're going to do is we'll spray some of this green lacquer in this area where the batteries have rotted. But it's a very unusual set to have, and any collection of CB radios, this was a bona fide set. It was produced by Autumn Products. Aura said that you could build it as the project. So I'm sorry this hasn't worked out video wise as I'd have liked it to, but that's now probably 10 minutes. of me rabbiting about something I messed up the recording of by not having the microphone preamplifier switched on earlier today. So thanks for watching the PE Ranger from 1981.